Hi, everyone. How are you doing after 2 days of a packed, incredibly informational, very useful seminar? Everybody okay? Good. I'm Alexis Muellner. I'm the editor of the Tampa Bay Business Journal, and I'm grateful to be able to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. And we're going to have a final discussion, which is really going to be focused on question and answer, because I have a couple of questions, and we're going to do a little summarizing, a little bit of takeaway, and then I really want to get you guys involved in posing questions to this group, and then we'll wrap up. I want to first introduce our panel. Starting on to my left is Jim Connolly, who you heard from just recently as St. Pete College Director of Corporate Training. Next to Jim is Bill Fruth, who had a lot to say yesterday, POLICOM Corporation President. Joe Kokolakis, hi Joe, with Kokolakis Contracting, he's the President. Steve Kurcan with Echelon, Steve. Blake Lyon with Pinellas County Development Review Services. He's the Review Services Director. Mike Meidel. We've got Blake. Mike Meidel, who you all know. Another packed presentation just now. I learned a lot. James Moore, who's a Ph.D. now with Jacobs. James, good to have you here. And last is Adam Carnow with ESRI. So thank you all for being here. A big hand. What I'd like to do to start, since really 5 of the 8 of you spoke yesterday, is to briefly have each of go down the line and have each of you give a quick summary of sort of what you spoke. I mean, you spoke now. So what I think, since it's the ones who spoke just now, in the interest of limiting redundancy, just to talk about what takeaways are you, what emerged from you from these 2 days? What has stood out for you in terms of what this big event has been? You want to start?
I'd be happy to do that. It's interesting that as connected as we are, sometimes we're disconnected. And be able to bring this in through different jobs and opportunities like that, it's an eye-opener when you see what the economy, by helping people get jobs and not just the low-wage jobs, but actually jobs that mean something, how it pulls it up the ladder in the economic situation.
And so there's a better sense of connectedness, meaning that's for you?
Yes.
Okay. And the college has been so dynamic in terms of responding to business needs. Are there new ideas in terms of programs that are keeping coming out of this?
Yeah. At the break, I got 4 business cards on people that want to do things already. So, and we're nimble enough that we can react right away. Just
in my 10 years in the Bay Area has always been a hallmark of the college, which is great. All right, let's pass along. Bill, how about for you? Why don't you summarize a little bit about some of what you talked about, and then we'll talk about some what's impacted you.
Well, a quick summary basically is that over the course of the history of our country, areas which reach physical build-out typically begin to decline economically because of the absence of real estate to keep that economy going. Pinellas County has reached that point. It reached it probably about 5, 6, 7 years ago. The area needs to provide for lands for your wealth-producing companies. It is a new idea to Florida that counties and cities actually buy and own these lands for these wealth-producing companies. It is not a new idea for most of the rest of the nation. And so the major recommendation I had for you is that your community, your governments begin to acquire, redevelop, and provide sites for future wealth-producing companies.
And are you seeing a willingness or sort of a will on the part of the folks who run those governments to make that happen?
I think we will see whether or not there's a will on Monday.
Maybe there's a lot of will that's evolved from these 2 days. And how about for you in terms of what you've been listening to? What emerges in your head about this conference?
Well, I had always known that Pinellas County had a great deal of economic assets for companies to prosper. And that was reconfirmed at this meeting. Your training programs, the redevelopment attitude, the real estate community, the business attitude, and all the things that go into the equation to cause success for these companies. And that was confirmed at this meeting.
So a lot of optimism in the sense that really the potential's yet to be met.
You have everything. Most communities in the United States don't have half of what you have, but they do have land. And so that's just the final piece of the puzzle to just keep the quality of life in this county on the upswing, is to keep your economy strong.
Yeah, well, that's great. And obviously jobs and more high-paying jobs are be key to that. Joe, talk about a little bit about your presentation yesterday, and then let's do takeaways.
Yesterday I spoke primarily about adaptive reuse, and that's typically a project-by-project analysis with very specific and inherent risks. And I guess my discussion was how, working with municipalities and with the community, we can mitigate some of those risks to ensure that these projects move forward. I think from my perspective, it was comforting to see the global approach to the overall Pinellas County redevelopment and economic incentives that I think Craig spoke yesterday about there's doing nothing, and then there's these large projects, and the adaptive reuse concept, and me in particular, is that interim that also was brought up yesterday. The smaller ones that are easily definable, but can make a difference in between. And I think there will be a large transition in Pinellas County between the mom and pop property owners that are not well capitalized to, I think, larger investors, and those investors will only come here if they feel that this community and this county believes and has a vision and is promoting a culture that incentivizes development. So I do think that when those larger investors that are well capitalized and more sophisticated and actually use data as opposed to some of us that more go by their gut, I think that'll make the difference, and that will attract the businesses here.
And so you're talking about a culture of willingness to entertain these projects, which sometimes can get mired, right? I mean, and is the inconsistency among municipalities an issue, or are you seeing this as a wider philosophy?
I think it's a wider philosophy that you have to understand that it's always going to come down to money, and whether it's jobs, creative, whether it's training, whether it's real estate. And I think when an investor understands that if he's going to put his money on the table, the municipality's way to buy a seat at that table is through incentives and through promoting business. And with that seat at the table, they have input, and they can ensure that that development and that growth is controlled.
So a conference like this certainly goes a long way to helping people understand and push for that. What about for you as a participant? What has been a takeaway, and what stands out in your mind?
I think the biggest takeaway is that there is a tremendous amount of data out there, and that it's not as expensive as it used to be, and it's much more reliable than it used to be. And I think, me personally, I need to take advantage of it if I'm going to grow my business.
Yeah, it's so much data available. It's just a matter of harnessing it and figuring it out. How about for you?
Well, I guess my takeaway from the conference is that we all have identified the issues. We all pretty much know what the pluses and the minuses are. Now it's how do you pull together and put together an action plan that can get you where you need to go. It's about redevelopment. It's about a different type of lifestyle. When you talk to young children, I mean the millennials today, I guess everybody's young to me anymore, they don't want a car. They want a different type of a lifestyle. They've seen their parents go through a situation in the last 8 years that devastated a lot of people. They don't want to see themselves in that same position. And so that's what we need to be working on, because that's the wave of the future, and we need to respond to that.
No doubt. And certainly businesses that want to build and grow and invest are paying a lot more attention to millennials now. I mean, it's because of that. They want to live in places where they can,
It's just not the millennials. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he was downsizing his house, and he said, he had a 7,000 square foot house. He said it was in an area in the Northeast, and he said, I didn't get any offers.
Wow.
He said, I had to take an offer 40% below listing price, because people's, we're changing. We're doing things differently, and so we have to address that.
And briefly, since I certainly wasn't here yesterday, and we did this backwards, just quickly, please summarize what your talk was yesterday.
My talk was today, but it was primarily how the development community and governments can work together. The important thing is, I think, to put yourself in our shoes and for us to put ourselves in your shoes, and to see what we can do to get over the hurdles of some of those things that just don't make sense. And there's so much of it out there. it boggles your mind, or at least does mine.
Great. Well, that's little by little. I think it's probably what you're talking about. Blake, I mean, I heard a bit of your talk, and I actually got to pass through Redwood City on a 7,800-mile road trip this summer. I'm insane, but we know that. Talk about your, since your talk is so fresh, and you've been here, what are other takeaways for you from this event?
For me, I think it's a little bit of the fact that Pinellas County as a whole can be, as a sum of parts, can be greater than any one thing. And by that I mean you have a wide range of municipalities, you have a wide variety of attractions that draw people to this area. Being relatively new to the area, I can say that from personal experience. And it's that totality of those and the sum of those parts that really makes this an attractive place to be. And I don't want that to seem daunting regardless of what size of municipality you are. Certainly because I bring kind of the local government perspective to that there are things that can be done at the various different levels to help engage and attract and retain and do those types of things. And working with various different partnerships and bringing those types of folks together. Yes, it's important to be diligent. Yes, it's important to be collaborative, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Again, I mean, heavy lifting. Many hands make heavy lifting. So that's what you're getting at. Great. Mike, I mean, obviously being in a position of organizing this and all the leadership that you're providing, and talk about sort of what maybe you're thinking about that you weren't Tuesday.
Well, what I love about the event is the fact that you're all still here. I mean, I'm just amazed that we figured the second day the place would be half empty. So thank you for your commitment to this topic. And one of the best things about it is the word is getting out about what we need in the future and just the facts of where we are. Everybody thinks that's a stagnant society there. We can go on our tourism and we can go on with our retirement, and it's finally realizing that the world is changing around us, even though we don't sometimes see it, that manufacturing and primary industries really are supporting this county. It's behind the scenes. People don't realize how much we owe to our major employers for our quality of life, and it's exciting that that word is getting out. And the other thing is, you've seen how complex development is, and this is the process. There's so many aspects to economic development, and everybody in here has got a little piece of that puzzle, whether it's education, whether it's the regulatory side, whether it's investment or development or the engineering that goes into these projects. There's so much to it, and we need you all, and I'm glad that you're committed and you're here and part of this.
Mike, you mentioned getting the word out, and when I got here, I put out a tweet. Part of that was also sharing the website for where all the seminar information is going to be, which is Pinellas by Design. And the hashtag for this event is Pinellas 2014, which some of you are sharing. But what else? What are other ways, and maybe grassroots or otherwise, to really extend that message beyond today?
Well, definitely, and again, on Monday, we'll be loading up the website with these presentations. So if you go out there now, you're not going to find everything. And then we're also videotaping this, and we'll have that edited over probably a week or two down the road, come back to the site again and check on it. But go ahead and use social media to tweet that out, to send and friend us at Pinellas County Economic Development. I know Stacy would like that to happen. Jay, we've got our own page on Facebook, and we post a lot of information there. But again, and then the digital ambassador that they talked about in the Tampa Bay partnership yesterday. Go on to tampabay.com and take a look at that. Sign up, and then allow them to use your contacts to spread the word, and that really multiplies the effect and gets out to your business contacts around the country.
And I also welcome all of you to, if you see the Business Journal, our morning and afternoon emails, and we always don't know what we don't know. And we welcome your relationship building in terms of sourcing and information, things that we're missing. We're a small staff with a large area, but in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out and tell us your stories. And time permitting, we're happy to listen and look into that. James, how about you? Talk a little bit about what you what you've done, and then let's talk about takeaways.
Okay. In terms of yesterday, I was asked to really look at sort of the opportunities and challenges for redevelopment and to place it into a national context. I do a lot of work around the country and around the world, so I showed some examples from other places. The Pearl District was mentioned, what Denver's doing, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's clear that, yes, redevelopment of Pinellas County is a technical challenge, but it's not an insurmountable technical challenge. There's a lot of references that you can look at and tweak. That in some ways the bigger issue is sort of a political issue and maybe even a strategic issue. And so I'd like to put a challenge out in front of you. Mr. Fruth said that all of this ultimately, economic development is ultimately a real estate issue. And as a real estate issue, that means it's a geospatial issue. And the Kingdom of Abu Dhabi is essentially creating a analytical virtual model of the entire kingdom. And in the next 3 or 4 years, they intend to have that. It'll be accessible online. Boston is doing similar things. San Francisco is doing similar things. I'll let the technical details go to Adam here. But the reality is, you've got some phenomenal resources. Redwood City's loss is your gain, so that's fantastic. Brian, who heads up your GIS group, is doing phenomenal work. All the stuff you've mentioned, Mike, is all there. All of this is ultimately geospatial information. And if the county could get together and say, let's map our future, let's build a model of the future of Pinellas County, make it online, make it accessible to people, allow new information to be uploaded and added, make it three-dimensional so people can look at it, because I agree with the statement, density and intensity are complete and total abstractions, and all they do is scare people. Show me a 5-story building, I'll say, that's a nice building. I don't care if it's 194 units to the acre. Who cares? It's a nice building. I'd like to have that. Make this as real as possible in the sense that it's truly virtual. Make Pinellas County so accessible that if I'm thinking of moving here, I can look, I say, wow, look what they've got for me. Because I think the pieces are all out there. This is a problem of assembling those pieces into a comprehensible whole that can then become the calling card for the county literally worldwide. An economist I got to do some work with, a man named David Peterson, who worked at Price Waterhouse for a long time, said in the end, redevelopment is about 3 issues. It's mix of uses, it's mass, how much of each, but the most important is mesh. How do they physically go together? And that's coming from an economist, so you expect an architect to say that. And I think that's the challenge. You've got 200 and so many square miles. It's all there. Let's together build the future of Pinellas County. So I offer that as a challenge.
Wow, I mean, aside from being really cool, one of the things about that, to me, is it expresses innovation. You talked about some of the other municipalities that are on the forefront of this. People want to live, invest, and grow in communities that are innovative. So not only would it be kind of fun, but you really would be able to see in real time probably what's happening. It's capable now.
Right. Well, I travel around. I do a lot of speaking to folks, and I say that the next 5 years, we'll be able to play SimCity for real. You've got the data. Okay, it's just a question of sort of getting it together, and whoever gets there first will win all the innovation awards. So,
well, good segue to you, Adam. Talk a little bit, refresh us, and then let's talk about what your takeaways are.
Sure. First of all, I just really like to thank whoever idea was to have me here, because I don't normally get to go to events like this. I'm normally stuck with other GIS folks at GIS events all over the place, and that's not a bad thing, because those are my people, and that's what I do. But I see an event like this as much more valuable for me because I actually get to interact with the outside world, what I might say, and see your real problems and what's going on. So, the technology is there, the data is there, the world's your oyster, it's there and it's ready to roll. And I do work with cities and counties across the Southeast, and I have never seen a local government customer like Pinellas County that is so professional, so motivated, so innovative, so focused, so dedicated to their jobs across the board. From Brian's group to every department we work with is some of the best people I work with I've ever seen. So you were very lucky. And someone said today or yesterday that that Bill's presentation scared the heck out of them, and that means he's a good presenter. And it did me too. And I thought, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end here in Pinellas County. But then as I saw the rest of the presentations, and I started to see how dedicated your developers are, and how they complimented your BDRS department as the best one to work with, and how focused the workforce is here. To me, it's like, you guys are ready to rock and roll. I mean, this is not a problem at all. All we got to do is find some property and redevelop it and find the right people to get in there. And to me, that's based on what I see here. It's going to happen, So what I will also say is that because we see such potential here based on the commitment of the staff here and the situation here, is my company will put whatever resources we can to help you showcase our technology to make a difference across the board. Now, I didn't get to show as much as I would like to show. There's a video that I can send people with a link from our user conference that showed what they're doing in Singapore. And Singapore is very, very close to creating a SimCity virtually for the entire city, where they will be able to model everything real, live, 3D, you name it, unbelievable. And then actually the next, where things are going even further, and they're actually already there, this technology already exists, and I've used it myself, is taking the 3D, modeling the interior, full 3D realistic, and then exporting that data to a game engine, and then putting an Oculus Rift visor on, and you
Wait
can
a minute, Oculus Rift.
Oculus Rift is a company that makes a 3D virtual reality mask. You put it on, and then you can look all around and see everything as if you're standing there. You can virtually walk through a proposed development before it exists, okay, with an Xbox, and then you put the Oculus Rift on. So I could walk through a proposed development and actually experience it before it exists. And you talk about getting a feel and taking this mass and this context and meshing it with the environment. The technology is already there. So as far as the potential here, we're ready to help you guys. I think you're in a great position, and I think I'm happy to see Pinellas succeed in this. As far as now, there's some other challenges that are geospatial that somebody got to today. I think climate change and sea level rise is something definitely that's got to be dealt with. I think transit is key as well, but we're here to help.
Great, and based on your comments and James's comments, I think these are your people too, Adam, I would say.
Yeah, and it's fun for me to show off our stuff to a lot of people that don't get to see our technology, because I show a lot of this stuff off to other GIS folks, and they're like, yeah, but it's still too slow, or it doesn't do this, or whatever. So when I come here and I show stuff, and y'all go, wow, that's incredible. I'm like, yeah.
I want to get to all of you since I want to use up the rest of our time, but really quick, Bill, I saw you react. And what was it when Adam sort of, the fear left him that sparked that?
Well, gosh, I've said it 100 times. You have everything going for you. And it's simply, you don't have 50 obstacles like Detroit, Michigan has. I mean, don't ask me to help them out. They're unhelpable. But there's only a handful of things that you need to do. The tools are here. Yes, it's hard work. It's going to take cooperation, but other communities, larger areas have done it. You united and simply solved the problem, and you hit it right in the head. It's just a couple things you have to do.
Gotcha. Anybody here from Detroit? Number one takeaway, this is not Detroit.
There's a lot of people from Detroit.
Yes. All right, let's get you involved, and I'm going to repeat the question that you asked, so please keep it brief so I can, my attention span can keep it intact. So who has a question for this group? Anyone? Someone? Right here in front. Tell us your question. Okay, so the question, you're on the TDC, and the question is, what's the discrepancy between with tourism data? You've heard one thing that's rosier, but another that's less optimistic, 13 versus 30%.
Well, basically the economic impact is you try to find where the money enters the economy from the tourist. And that's hotel, motel, restaurants, and some retailing. And so after that enters the economy at those points, then you measure the economic impact of those industries. Now, I didn't say it was 13%. I think it's about 7 or 6%. Because when you look at the economic impact of those industries, and I have the economic impact chart up there, and you measure that against the economic impact of the other primary industries, the economic impact is relatively small compared to corporate headquarters. Corporate headquarters in this county has a greater economic impact upon the economy than tourism does. And so because of this wealth that's flowing in, it's billions of dollars being brought into the community just by the corporate headquarters community. And so and the reason you do this stuff is to let the community know what are the true driving forces of your economy. And tourism is a component to it. Retirement is probably, well, it's certainly the second largest industry because of the wealth coming in through Social Security, Medicare, over and above what is sent out on taxes. Because you pay Social Security taxes, you pay Medicare taxes. But the difference between the two, what you send to Washington and you get back on Social Security, Medicare, private retirement, pensions, is it's billions and billions of dollars entering the economy because of the retirement community. And that's probably the second biggest industry, manufacturing being the biggest. There are 30-some thousand people in this county earning better than $65,000 a year in manufacturing. And the wages paid in the tourism industry is about $22,000 a year. So this is why the impact manufacturing is so much greater than tourism. It's because the wages paid in the other industries is so much higher.
I'm sure that there are immeasurable or less measurable elements to the benefits. I mean, tourism is historically, huge for our region. But, somebody coming here saying this, and I've heard it countless times. This place is amazing. I want to relocate my business here. Are those things harder to measure? I mean, I'm trying to not have you be too bummed out. But is there?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why someone moves their business to a place. But the bottom line is the bottom line. Will the business be profitable at that location? If that was the single biggest reason why businesses locate, or the motivating factor, then every coastal community from Jacksonville through Key West and come back around would be thriving with companies that moved here from all around the world. And that isn't the case. And so the economics of the business is what actually drives that decision.
Got it. Anybody else comment on this? Or could we move on to the audience? Okay. Other questions, please. Right here in the blue. How do you equate the realism question to the tourism question? Meaning, the potential for the kinds of things that. Why is Pinellas so tourism oriented? Then I'm sorry. Than Polk, for example.
Of course, it's more tourism oriented than Polk County. You have beaches. I mean, come on. But when you're asked the question, what is the biggest industry in this county that's driving the economy? It isn't tourism. It's manufacturing. Then it's retirement industry. Because it's measured by dollars coming in. Now, if you want to say that because a tourist comes here and they really like the place and so they're going to move their business here, what caused them to truly move the business here? The beach? Well, you wouldn't move a business to Palm Beach, Florida, on the island, which is a beautiful place, because the costs would be so excessive you couldn't survive. And so you come back to the equation of cost and profitability for that business. That is still the final decision. So that's when we get into the geographic economic assets of the county. You have quality of life. And I've said that over and over again. You have quality of life, and the beaches are part of that. You still also have to have reasonable labor costs and training and all the other things for that business to be profitable. I mean, you don't move businesses to Marco Island. That's a beautiful place too, but it's a terrible place to locate a company. And so this is where tourism might have brought the person here to look at it, but the economic benefit is the business being here.
I know, Blake, I think you have a question.
I just wanted to add a little bit more to that. In that Redwood City's city slogan is "Climate Best by Government Test." They did a study back in the 30s, and they looked at the entire globe for for where the best climates were, and Redwood City was one of 3. So if it were just down to those kinds of things, every business would, be attracted to that. But Silicon Valley really gets its draw and its pull by the synergy, by the collective think tank that is created by that, the tourism and those components play a factor, absolutely. But it goes back to the educational institutions that are in the area, the Stanfords, the UC Berkeleys, and the like. It goes back into to the talent pool and that synergy that draws a lot of that, in addition to, and I don't want to, cut it down, but it is one component and not the only.
Good, thanks for the good point. I saw a hand back here. Can you stand up and tell us your question? The question is that you have learned since coming to the college that manufacturing in Pinellas County has such a presence. The question is, how do we get that word out in a more broader sense, so that it's more widely known and that we can evolve that process? Who has a thought about that?
I think a lot of it is really reaching down in the schools too, because then we can do a double whammy on that, because what we need is there's so many parents who don't know that these jobs are available in Pinellas County, and they want to send their kids to college and have them come back and I don't know do what, because the perception is there's only jobs here. And so I think we need to get down and help the guidance counselors and the parents and the schools to understand the career paths that are available. And the Education Foundation is working on that, the Career Education Board that I sit on. We're trying to get that information out. And particularly the fact that another not well understood fact is that not everybody does need to go to college. I mean, there are some incredible jobs out there that the certificate programs, the associate degree programs are available for, the apprenticeships that are very high skill and very high pay. It can be 6-figure jobs without a college career if you have the right skill set and the right certificates. So I think the best way to leverage this and get the most out of it is to really reach down into the parents and the schools, and I'd love to explore that option, because we really need to develop that.
We often get, we hear from all kinds of folks pitching stories, but the manufacturing community at times is shy. They're proprietary, and so from the business journal's point of view, it's been difficult to communicate sometimes. So I'd encourage anybody who is in manufacturing to get the word out and talk to us about that. One had a hand up here, and then you. So go ahead. What's your question? Okay. Let me repeat it real quick so we have it on the record. So 10 years ago, you heard a similar message. Doom and gloom. I don't know that I would read it that way, but has anything changed? Am I getting that right? For the most part. But what's changed from 10 years ago in terms of perception versus reality?
Yeah.
If we didn't become more manufacturing conscious,
what I advised you 10 or 12 years ago is that because when you reach economic build-out, the economy would decline. The economy declined because of this absence of sites for primary employers. Now, manufacturers are one of them. They're horizontal. But you also have a mid-rise. Nielsen Marketing Research is a mid-rise, tremendous employer in your county. Then you have the high-rise, and you have some of them. So the industry is vertical and it's horizontal, but they all need space. And I said, if you don't solve this real estate issue, your economy will decline. Guess what? You didn't solve the real estate issue. The economy declined, and I am projecting now you will continue to decline. You have 30 to 40,000 fewer people working here within 15 years if you don't solve the real estate issue for your wealth-generating companies. I'm so, economists, economic projections, give psychic hotlines credibility sometimes. But darn it, I was right this time.
Real quick with a follow-up, and then because I want to make sure we hear from other voices, and we have one other question behind you. So, yes. Okay, so now we've moved into pain threshold. Any quick thoughts? See?
I just want to make a comment. I don't necessarily agree that nothing has been done, or not a lot has been done. I mean, because a lot has been done. The county and the city of St. Petersburg, they took a look at their LDRs. They took the opportunity to come up with some new concepts and ideas, And we benefited from that, all of us. One was the ASI project. That was a property that was zoned for 90,000 square feet of retail. You know, with the new LDRs that were in place, the owner in New York didn't know that you could build 200 to 300,000 square feet on that site. He hadn't kept up with it. And that was a prime opportunity for a local company. And I want to make sure that everybody understands, you've got to take care of your local companies. This was a company that grew here in St. Petersburg. I don't know if you've read about it, but you know, just about a month ago, they reached $1 billion in premium, and they were the 25th largest property insurance writer in the country, homegrown in St. Petersburg, Florida. The owner wanted to stay here. Had the county and had the city not had the foresight to take a look at what they were doing with their LDRs and provide that opportunity, we would have lost them because he wanted to be in Northeast St. Pete. So I hear what you're saying, but my point to everybody is we need to do more of that.
It's a great model.
And we need to say, hey, look, point to that as a success and say, they're going to have 1,600 jobs before they're done. They're well on the way. So,
Mike, you have a thought?
Yeah, well, and then related to that, the land development codes, the codes are being developed now and will soon be in place that will increase density along our corridors, centers, and districts, as Mike Crawford had mentioned. With or without green light, we're going to have the ability to create more jobs and more housing along those corridors and provide bus transit and rapid transit and make this thing happen. With green light, it'll be easier. Without, we'll still get it done, but going vertical is what we're going to have to do. And it's not just manufacturing. As he's saying, it's industry. We have a huge big data segment. We've got a large transaction processing. We have call centers that are not just call centers. We have people who are there that are helplines, that are nurses and professionals and accountants and risk management people that are answering questions at $20, $30 an hour, not at $8 and $10 an hour.
Joe?
At the risk of being accused of drinking the Kool-Aid, because frankly, yesterday I was scared after Bill's comments, and my only thought was that, you know, what was it, rumors of my death have greatly exaggerated, reports of my death have been greatly exaggerated, because I do see Pinellas County having still a tremendous amount of opportunity, underutilized lands, unutilized lands. But I think that if this group is going to focus on travel and the tourism industry, and if this group is going to focus on mixed-use buildings and town centers in every town in Pinellas County, I think that's low-hanging fruit. And I think the long-range vision and the purpose of this symposium is really to take to heart what he's saying, because without jobs and without high-paying jobs in this community, it will wither.
Great. We're getting a little out of time. I think we have time for one or two questions. I think this gentleman right here.
Sirs, I hear what you're saying. As the presentations went on yesterday, there was a model and there was a ladder. And, you know, the ladder was way up here, but the $25,000 range, it's like these people were out of place. I understand what you're saying. We need good high-end jobs. But why is it so necessary to bring in 300 jobs where everyone's making $85,000 a year, when in reality you can bring in 600 jobs, people making $30,000 a year, making their way to the $80,000 a year? Would that not help the economy? Because the facts are, the truth is, every economy in America just about tanked in the last 10 years. It had nothing to do with who was working, who wasn't working. That's just the reality of the situation. So why is it so much $85,000, $100,000 a year when we really have people, we have constituents, neighbors, friends, family that make $30,000 or less a year? Do they not matter in the future of Pinellas County?
Okay, real quick. The question is, explain the importance of high-wage jobs versus in maybe less numerous higher wage jobs versus more lesser-paying jobs.
Yeah, well, first of all, low-wage jobs, call them the 20s, 25,000, will form naturally because of marketplace demand. This is one of the reasons why you have people working in restaurants and in a lot of different places, because there's a market to people go to dinner to do that. If you focus on creating the low-wage job, then there's no ladder to climb. And if there's no ladder to climb, then your economy will stay a low-wage economy. So when we try to bring in companies, when we try to bring in companies
hang on a sec. Let's let
When
him,
we
let's
try
let
to
him
bring
finish.
in companies, the magic number of what will cause quality growth and cause people to have future opportunities is a wage higher than your area average wage. And it's not an arbitrary thing. There's a reason why that wage is there. And when you do that, and if you have a quasi-limited supply of labor, and let's just say that people aren't moving here for low-wage jobs to Pinellas County, and that you have a fixed number of people. What you have are the low-wage jobs, and many of them are part-time. They will fold into full-time jobs. And instead of earning minimum wage because they're full-time then, they will go up to $12 or $13 an hour because of competition for labor. Because the best of them would have risen through that ladder toward the $40,000 a year job. The part-time, low-skilled jobs will become full-time jobs, and that's this pressure that creates. Now, that has happened in virtually every economy, small economy, measurable, in the United States. When they focused on quality, the low-skilled jobs became full-time, and they had career opportunities. So, but if you focus on the lower-wage jobs, that's where you will stay forever. So this is the economic dynamic of it.
Not focusing, not say it's not a low-wage job. It's a very important job. Teachers don't make $85,000 a year.
No.
They have a very good, they're very important to society because...
And not everyone in your factories makes 65. That's about what the average is. But you have factories here paying $45,000. You have corporate headquarters where there's a lot of $30,000, $35,000 employees. That's why we call them averages. There's some above and some below. There are a lot of $30,000, $35,000 a year jobs in Pinellas County. But the economic dynamic is that you focus on the higher job that you're trying to create, because that will bring other people up the ladder.
And the ability to make it all-inclusive really is the training programs, too. So we need to be able to take the low-skill individuals and give them opportunities, like through the college, at low cost, to be able to go in and upgrade the skills and take advantage of these newer jobs that are available. Because we are getting back to the point where we're getting a limited workforce. We got 5.8% unemployment. Wasn't that long ago when 5% was considered full employment. I mean, we got a few years of 3% and we got spoiled. But, you know, we are getting the point where we need to retrain individuals to help, you know, go up that career ladder. But as Bill said, you know, every one of these industry jobs has a whole mix of entry level of $8 an hour jobs up to the, you know, multiple six-figure jobs. So it's the blended rate that's important, and we bring in these types of companies. They've got a huge career ladder internally, and generally the best employers will help train their individuals and pay tuition to bring them up. The German Skills Initiative, the program, is designed to have businesses pay for the apprentices to go through, and you can have a high schooler go through and have a six-figure job at the end, or at least a $65,000 job, and have zero debt from training.
All right, we're now a couple minutes after noon. I want to, interest of finishing on time, I'm going to take one more question, and that's you.
Thank you, Ken, first of all, and the organizers for putting this together. I think you gave us a great what is. I was looking at the goal, examining land development, planning, and economic strategies required to create a fresh force. I think we've heard the what is. So I'd like for you, before we leave, to be innovative and jump out of your areas of expertise. Adam, you pointed out sea level rise, climate change, estimating for energy. So what would you, each of you, in a sentence, as a seed to the next step, give us as a creative, out of your expertise idea?
The question is out of your expertise, a sentence, and it's a great way to end this panel. What is your creative idea? Is that it? Beyond to be a more robust and prosperous Tampa Bay. Let's start with you, Adam. Any thoughts?
I draw the short stick here or what? Well, you know, what I think, let's see, in one sentence.
Let's keep it quick, yep.
All right, keep it quick. One sentence, I'd like to see all 24 municipalities and the county simplify the business permitting process so that if somebody needs to grow or relocate a business in Pinellas County, they can go one place and get it done quickly and efficiently and on time.
There you go. All right, James? I'll go right down the list coming my way.
I'm going to repeat myself. I think the goal is to build on the skill sets present a vision, a comprehensive vision of Pinellas that is so enticing that the tourism people love it, and the industry people love it, and the folks who just want a good lifestyle love it, and they'll come.
There you go. Mike, one sentence.
Yeah, no, I like the idea we're beginning to explore of getting the word out, that what we are all about today and what job opportunities are available and what educational programs are available, and make that clear, because so many people feel like they've hit a dead end in this economy, and there are so many opportunities, and just get the word out.
Great. Blake?
I'm going to build on a concept Steve mentioned earlier, and it's something that I was involved in in California, and that is this idea of kind of management exchange, where you have folks that are in local government that are having the opportunity to work with maybe a development crew to understand their side of the business, or work within another industry to better understand, to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, so you have a full appreciation for what truly needs to be accomplished. And when you have that level of understanding, you can bring that wealth of knowledge back into your organization and adjust accordingly.
Great. These are great ways to tie it up. Steve?
Well, I like to be short and simple. I think we just need to go out there and do it. We know what we need to do. We just need to go do it.
Just do it. All right. Joe?
Well, on the same note, I think it's a delicate balance between doing it and ensuring that we maintain that grassroots approach and protect the locals and the local investors and the community and the residents of this community. But at the same time, I'd be asking Adam how much for that simulated system or simulated plan of all of Pinellas County, because I think we need to also ensure that we bring those large corporations and think like 22nd century people.
Great.
The question's outside my area of expertise.
Somehow I doubt that, but that's all right.
I think we need a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution of the United States.
One sentence. There it is. James?
Yeah, for the sunshine's sake, we ain't using the sunshine the way we need for renewable and sustainable energy.
Wow. Well, on that note, on behalf of all of us at the Tampa Bay Business Journal, I invite you again to see our content, share it. We're grateful for those of you that do that. If you, again, aren't signed up for our content, we invite you to do it, and you're welcome to communicate with me directly. Let's have a big hand for our great panel.